Hi, I'm Matt Murdock, and I'm here in Washington, D.C. at the Cherry Blossom Festival to talk about risk. Why am I talking about risk at the Cherry Blossom Festival? Because for planners and tourists, there's a lot of risk involved. They never know exactly when the cherry blossoms are going to be at their peak bloom. The weather can be highly variable. A cold snap could kill the blooms, high winds could blow them off the trees, heavy rains could knock them off and create a lot of mud. And the weather could be cold, miserable for the tourists. So they never know, and tourists make plans well in advance because it's very crowded and busy and hotels fill up fast, and they're gambling on if they're going to hit it right. And the Park Service invests a lot of resources, some of which you can see behind me, to make this a really fun event for everybody. So whenever we face a big change in our life, we feel risk, we feel a sense of fear. What are we afraid of? Well, we're afraid of losing something. Many studies have shown that we're almost hardwired to value risk over potential reward. You know, there's the old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. That's because the fear of losing that one bird is bigger than the possibility of the sense of gain of getting the two birds. Lots and lots of studies have shown that. We're much more likely to hold on to what we have, even if it means losing out on a future opportunity. So we hear about addicts and people having to hit rock bottom before they start to change. Why is that? Because whatever's going on in their lives, whatever's going on in our lives, we do things to mitigate the pain and to get ourselves through it. And facing change means giving up something that's been keeping us going, that's maybe been a lifeline to us. You know, for alcoholics, it could be booze or wine. You know, if you're a smoker, nicotine. It could be food or whatever it is. It could be a job that's really not doing it for you, but you're hanging in there because it's paying the bills and you're afraid of what might happen if you try to change jobs. It could be divorce or changing a relationship or even getting in a new relationship. These things are fearful and we associate risk with them. And that holds us back until it just gets to a point where we can't take it anymore. There's also opportunity risk. So if we don't do something, we lose the opportunity to do something better. So how do we balance that? So what if we can change before we hit rock bottom, where we don't have that big mess to clean up afterwards? We don't have all the disadvantages of losing so much because it's out of control and it's chaotic. What if we can do that before it gets too bad? How can we do that? How can we make that risk? Or how can we accept that risk? Well, one way I look at it in my life is risk management. Right now, that's what I'm doing for my full-time job. I'm doing enterprise risk management. So when I've had risky situations, I've looked at what am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of losing? And then applying risk management, how likely is that to happen? And what are the consequences if it really does? I'll give you an example. In the Army, I had a new job and I was working in a place and our chief of staff was driving everybody crazy. I mean, even a Vietnam combat vet said he was having anxiety dreams, and lots of people were having high blood pressure, and the staff was just miserable, and I was too. And I really thought he might fire me. I might get relieved for cause, even though I was doing my job and I was competent. I'll give you an example. I had a boss in the Army once, a chief of staff, who was driving everybody on the staff crazy. Even a Vietnam veteran Marine Corps retiree said he was having anxiety dreams, that people had high blood pressure, and the staff was just miserable, including me. I really thought maybe he was going to relieve me because he was so getting on everybody about everything. So instead of being miserable about it, I did an objective assessment. I sat down and I looked at how likely is it I would be relieved. And I realized not very likely. I was outperforming pretty much everybody else, and people were actually engaging in misconduct and not getting relieved. It was kind of hard to relieve somebody. So I knew the odds were really low. But then I looked at the impact. Well, I had about, I think, 17 years in at the time. I'd just been promoted to major, and I realized that if I were to be relieved, worst case scenario, I'd still be able to be on active duty until retirement. I would get my retirement benefits, so it would be a financial hit because I wouldn't get promoted before I retired, but I'd survive it. It was survivable. So low odds, medium, high impact. So I realized I really didn't need to worry about that too much. But just to hedge, I took everything out of my office, all my personal possessions out of my office, because I'd seen the brigade commander get relieved and he had to clean out all his plaques and awards, and it was kind of a walk of shame. So I avoided that risk by just removing everything. If the worst came down, I would just grab my hat, my coffee cup, my picture of my kids, and get up out of my chair and walk out and be done. So I was ready for it. It was like, bring it. And that totally took the stress off my mind. Then I just focused on being the best I could. And it was really a turning point in managing that risk. So I got ahead of that before things got to rock bottom. And I do want to point out that it's okay to be terrified. And a lot of things that we feel are risky make us scared, make us terrified, and that's okay. My first parachute jump in jump school, I was so scared. I had an out-of-body experience. Talk about being terrified, and I felt like I was floating above my body, but it was my most technically proficient jump. And when I started transition, I would go to the support groups, and all my friends that knew me then said, "You were so scared. You were just sitting there and you looked so scared and so terrified." But I worked through my fears, I assessed my risks, and I knew I had to move forward. And before it got to a complete train wreck or I hit rock bottom, I managed to turn my life around, live my truth, and live my authentic lives. So I would urge you, if you're holding back because you're scared about something, that's understandable and it's okay. Be gentle with yourself. But stop for a minute and do an objective risk assessment. Look at what you're really scared of. Look at how likely it is to happen, how bad it could be if it does happen, and what you're going to do to either avoid, mitigate, or manage the risk. What will you do if that does happen, or how will you prevent it from happening? And I think that will go a long way towards allaying fears and helping you really achieve your best self. So, I'm Ann Murdoch. I hope you have a great day, and if you get a chance, come out to Washington, D.C. and enjoy the cherry blossoms. Bye.